Welcome back to Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin, and we're, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the President and CEO of the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce online too, and we're going to go directly over and talk to Eddie McBride. Eddie, how's it going?
Matt, good morning. Nice to talk to y'all this bright and early on Monday morning. I hope you and Dave are doing fine.
I think we're doing all right.
We are. Gus, we're so honored to have you here, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Dave. I'm honored to have the chance to speak to you guys.
So I asked you to come on an extra time this month, and the reason I did is you had sent a letter. You recently sent a letter to the governor. Could you kind of explain the letter, what it says, and what it is that you're looking for?
Yeah, of course, the last governor's order that GA 28 that closed bars, shut them down entirely except for to-go sales only. There was a lot of bars that have outdoor seating areas and everything that were working around what the specific order said to be closed, but they were interpreting they had an opportunity to sell to go and allow their customers to take advantage of the product and the outdoor seating areas, and that seemed like a pretty logical thing to do, seeing how they let restaurants do that as well. And so we found out that the TABC enforced the entire part of the order that says you can't be open for anything whatsoever except to-go orders. So we said, wait a minute, Mr. Governor, please would you and your recovery folks consider letting the restaurants, the bars, and we should have included wineries. We didn't think about, but bars and breweries specifically, would you allow them to keep doing what they were doing to help them make a little bit of money? Because obviously the what has been suggested by the Texas Craft Brewers Guild is that 2 and 3 breweries will be out of business by the end of the year if they stick to the current guidelines. And so I think that's the least they can do is to give them a little bit of opportunity to not only make a little bit more money, but to serve their customers as well.
I'll tell you right now, I don't see how these bars are even surviving if they don't have one heck of a savings, because I know that we've talked to at least one bar owner here that said that it was costing them a lot of money every month just to stay closed. And then the way the governor did his order, it was an overnight thing, so they had bought a lot of food that they couldn't do anything with. Yes, and they're not surviving. Many of them are going to end up having to close their doors because obviously this has really impacted them. Sure, when they were closed, there was a lot of folks that weren't paying attention to what the guidelines are, and it's difficult in a bar, but there was a lot of bars and breweries especially and wineries that were paying attention to the guidelines, social distancing and everything as well. So the entire industry more or less was shut down because of a few bad actors. So I wish they hadn't have gone to that degree to close them all down.
Eddie, I did read somewhere that there was a large study done about where people got infected, and now this is what the study said, that bars were the number one place, bars and clubs. So I would imagine that all, like the governor and all, that's one of the things. I mean, if you look and you say that's the number one place they get infected, well, then that certainly should be on the list of closing those things. But
absolutely,
I know that you have a far better finger on this than I do, and far more qualified to talk about it. But I look around and I see all these mom and pop businesses and these small bars and these that are closed, and I cannot imagine. They would have to have awfully deep pockets, I would think, to stand being closed and the rent going on, the insurance going on, all this time to survive this over a period of months. I just wonder. I just wonder what this town is going to look like at some point in time when it finally is reopened, and whenever that might be.
Well, it's Dave, it's one of these things that. Obviously, after the Memorial Day weekend, after the 4th of July weekend, we saw the resulting spikes because obviously people need to get outside. They not only want to get outside and do things, but obviously the pandemic has had a huge toll on our social and emotional well-being and everything else. And bars are very similar. Bars and breweries and wineries are very similar to other small businesses, like you say, that are very, very damaged by this. Now, don't forget, it's not just the owners, but it's also the folks that they employ. It's all the
exactly
that can't be making money. They got to go find some other way to live, whether it be the unemployment or whatever. But now the TABC did come out last Friday. As a matter of fact, there's for bars that sell directly to consumers, it's the 51% rule, because it's a bar. If you get 51% of the sale of alcohol is the primary way of making money. But they allowed them that during the pandemic, if you have been operating selling more food than you have alcohol, in other words, 51% food, then obviously you can submit a form to allow them to serve as a restaurant under the last governor's order number 28. So, and that calculation is going to be based on their gross receipts starting from April 1st. So that did give a little bit of a break. And, of course, no one knew this was coming until it hit the street, which we really appreciate the TABC working this opportunity, because some bars have shifted to selling a lot of food as part of their business, which now so now they have a TABC rule that allows them to change to that, and that maybe will help some of the bars that did shift to 51% or more food sales. So that's the best thing that's happened so far to them.
We have a text messenger that says Lubbock has 2 or 3 representatives on the governor's recovery task force, including, I guess he just says McDougal. I'm assuming it's Mark McDougal and Carla Moran.
Moran.
Carla Moran. I apologize, but anyway, have you been talking to them, and have they been talking to the governor? Do we have any sense of what's going on and what the governor's thoughts are?
Well, I have, I'm still waiting for a response. I guess we shouldn't wait for a response. And I know these things take a while to get worked out. We're going to call down to the governor's office this week and talk to their representatives that are on their economic recovery task force, and we'll give a heads up to our local reps, to Mark McDougal and Carla Moran, and make sure they know that we're going to be doing this, because I think it's fair. And again, it's a whole segment of industry that obviously they need to make money. They need to stay alive. We don't need to kill them without offering even more of a chance to operate. Now, not all the bars and breweries have outdoor seating locations, but with given the opportunity, if they could continue what they were doing or start something new, they're entrepreneurial. They have a way to do this. Wineries, even more so, most of the wineries have some type of outdoor or most, I shouldn't say most. A lot of the wineries have outdoor opportunities like that.
Okay. Well, Eddie, would you be willing to stay one more segment? We got to take a quick break.
Yes, sir. I'd be glad to.
All right. We'll be right back on News Talk 95.1 FM, 790 AM KFYO, Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. Welcome back to Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. We are on the phones with the President and CEO of the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce, Eddie McBride. And Eddie, I do have a question. I understand that where some of these studies have come from and whatnot, but the governor has done this without any backup whatsoever. He's put it upon himself. He's also, he's done it indefinitely. In other words, there is no opening date for this. There's no, we're going to look at it again at this date. Does it worry you that he may be actually trying to put bars out of business?
No, I don't think intentionally. I do not think that he set out directly, intentionally to close down bars and breweries. No, I mean, I know probably there's a lot of people who think because of the way he's acting that could be one of the things, but I have no reason to suspect that at all.
Well,
I mean,
I'll tell you,
no different than restaurants.
Well,
I don't think.
That's the thing. They're no different than restaurants, but they're getting a totally different set of rules.
Well, and it's because of the nature. Now, I'm not defending his actions whatsoever, but I'm saying it's just like what Dave talked about a while ago as a result of that study. I didn't have to have a study to know what was going to happen when they opened bars. I've seen pictures, and I can't say that I've been involved in one of those opportunities yet. I've been around them, but the fact of the matter is it is difficult to control people's activities inside a bar. And if you have several folks that are not minding their P's and Q's, so to speak, then obviously you do enhance opportunity to spread the the virus. I mean, it's just as simple as that. And I'm not saying that bars can't figure out a way to do it, because the guidelines, if they'd followed the guidelines, would have at least aided that. It might not have eliminated every transmission opportunity, but at least it could have, slowed it down a little bit, at least not added the opportunity for so much to occur.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I mean, it's just the nature of the bar. It's, if you go to a bar to have a drink with somebody, it's going to be pretty difficult to sit 6 feet from them every time you get a chance, and so it was just made difficult with the rules. So, and Texas isn't the only place that's having this problem. I've talked to my chamber counterparts, not everywhere across the nation, but a lot of places are having the same issues.
Yeah. Okay. Dave?
Well, say, Eddie, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Are you in favor of just opening things up and let things fall where they will?
Well, I'm like anybody else. I wish the sooner the sooner that we could open, I think it's going to allow us the opportunity to get back to normal again. But just like what Matt was saying a while ago, I'm a rule follower, like was pointed out to you, Matt. It's not a law that the governor has implemented, but nonetheless,
there's penalties involved. I mean, there's if there's a penalty involved, then you're expected to do it. It's the same as a law.
Yeah, well, I haven't heard anybody that's actually been penalized yet.
Well, of course not. They have no way of doing it. They can't even detain somebody. That person can walk away and not get a ticket. But even under those circumstances, the governor has taken upon himself to write a royal edict and force people to follow it.
Yeah, well, and again, whether it be the president, whether it be the governor, whether it be the mayor, what difficult positions they find themselves in, they're having to take what information has been provided to them, not just the science, but other information that's been provided to them, and in trying to make both legal decisions everywhere else. That's why this liability issue that's going on for this Phase 4 in Congress, in the Senate right now, businesses need to have that liability protection.
They absolutely.
If a business is following the rules and somebody contracts coronavirus and tries to place a lawsuit against them, they have to have protection, and it's not fair for businesses not to have that additional protection. And so I really appreciate what's going on right now with that liability effort. I know that we talked to Congressman Arrington on Friday. I know he's working awfully diligently for that, and our senators as well.
Yeah,
so all of this is so complicated. It is so screwed up that it's really difficult to be rational.
Yeah, you could have a lot of businesses that make it through the COVID-19 virus problem, and then right after they make it through, everything looks good. They get lawsuits coming on them and have to go out of business.
And that's what they should have already had that liability protection provided for them, even if it's just a stopgap measure during the pandemic.
It doesn't look like the Democrats are going to go with it. It looks like it's going to get thrown out to me. I could be wrong, but I just don't see the Democrats doing it.
Well, I just hope there's always room for compromise, and I'm hoping that some of the rhetoric that was passed out on Saturday, as far as they had very productive conversations, both sides of the aisle are saying that, but more so than anything else, there's always this, in that sausage making, there's always the opportunity to make some rational decisions based on somebody giving up something and somebody getting something.
All right.
So I hope that the liability issue remains as number one issue that we need.
Yep. All right, well, Eddie, we're out of time, but thank you for coming on. We'll talk to you again here in a week or two
yes, sir.
about the chamber and what y'all have going on. But I apologize, we're out of time.
No, I appreciate you having me on. Thank you, guys.
All right, that was Eddie McBride, President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. Thank him for coming on, and we'll be right back on Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin.